Good morning. I'm Gina. My pronouns are she and her, and it is so great to be with you. Tracy said, I'm a culture and climate coach in an elementary school right now, but I've worked in middle school. I've been in education for about 15 years now. I've taught everything in middle school outside of specials, except for math. And I was an EL resource teacher in an elementary school, grades pre-K through 5. I pushed into 11 classrooms across those grade levels, pre-K to 5. It was an adventure. I've been a meditation and yoga practitioner for since I was 17. I'm gratefully 52 fabulous years old. So it's been a long time I've been in these practices. So to see how the mindfulness piece of our work and what we know is important socially and emotionally for our students come together in schools and with what I've always done has been really phenomenal. In addition to that, as Tracy said, I was the chair of the Human and Civil Rights Committee. Now I do a few other things. I've been doing this work around inclusion. I refer to it as inclusion for a number of reasons. We will talk about that. I have an hour with you all, so I am going to zoom through some things to give you because I believe in practice and practicality. I'm also an adjunct professor at Roosevelt University. I teach educator prep. And so someone put in the chat that there are future educators in here. Thank you for continuing to become an educator. We need you. We need everyone like this. We need us all, and especially mindful educators who are really in their own personal work. So to get us started, I'm going to share my screen. The first thing I would love for you to do is I'm going to take just a minute here because it's always important for me as a woman of color. I'm an African-American woman to acknowledge the land that we're on, as well as to pay respects to how we arrived here and at this point in our lives. And I just have so much for you. So I'm gonna read this land and labor acknowledgement that's written by Dr. Melina Abdullah. This land on which I inhabit is physically situated in the original ancestral homelands of the Potawatomi and the Sioux people. We pay respect to the Potawatomi and all Indigenous people, past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in the homeland and throughout their historical diaspora. I invite you to take a breath with me. We pay homage to those who were stolen from Africa, placed in bondage, falsely named as chattel, and forced into labor, who were called slaves, but never submitted to such, and have always been fully human, with an unbroken connection to the divine and to each other. We honor our African ancestors for the still unpaid labor which built what is now the Americas. And I'll invite you to take a breath with me. To both our Indigenous and African forebears, we commit to the continued struggle for liberation and reparations, for it is only through freedom and justice that we truly give honor. And I'll invite you to take one more breath with me here. Thank you. We're going to be talking about inclusion and mindfulness. So my objectives for you today is that you have some discomfort. Be prepared for that. I like to get you ready for the discomfort, that we're moving way beyond what it means to just know what implicit bias is. And we're going to talk about what it means to practice inclusion in our classrooms using mindfulness-based practices. So right now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. This is for you only. You will not be sharing this with the group, but understanding who the people are in front of us makes a difference, and understanding who we are is critical to us being inclusive and mindful. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. I'm going to set a timer. I have this identity wheel here. Now, when we talk about culture, I've got what, 8 listed on the screen? There are multiples. We are multi-layered human beings. If you do not see something on here that is part of your identity, please feel free to write it down. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes here. I'm going to set my timer, and I'd love for you to take a moment to write down all the aspects of your identity, as many that you can identify. And we'll come back to this later, but don't worry, you're not going to have to share this. And I'll explain why you won't share this publicly in a moment.
Is SES, is that social economic?
Socioeconomic status, yes. Thanks, Tracy. And we have about a minute. A little less than 30 seconds. And that's time. Thank you so much. So just hold on to that for a moment. We're going to come back to it. And there we go. What I'd love to do, I'm a restorative practices facilitator and trainer, and I usually do everything by way of circle. We're a large group, so it might be a little more challenging on Zoom to do circle today, but to get you into the room and so that I understand who's with me here to be most effective, I would love for you to place your name, your pronouns, and where you are located into the chat, just so that I can get a fuller picture of where everyone is. And thank you so much for that. Just go into this next slide here and stop sharing for a moment to talk a little bit about while you're putting that in the chat. And thank you so much. Maui. All right, Maui. This is exciting. California, I love it. Hey, Oak Park. I'm in Oak Park, in case you didn't know. Okay, so thank you, friends, so much. Thank you. Love it. Our first activity as mindful practitioners, now I don't have to, I feel so like fortunate that I'm in a group of people who know about mindfulness. Like you showed up here because you know a little something, right? It's really becoming aware that we're aware. But when we overlay this idea of becoming aware that we're aware with what we need to know about the group in front of us and all of those identities on that wheel, it's a practice. And there's some things that you're going to experience in your body. There's some things that you're going to experience in your mind as we move through this process that I need you to be aware of. So we're going to do a centering activity to begin to get us started. So I want you to sit yourself comfortably. And it's a very basic, very basic. And it comes from the book, My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. I have a list of resources I'm going to share with you all at the end, so don't worry about getting it in the chat now. I'm going to drop all of them in the chat at the end. So sit comfortably in your seat. And we're going to do what he calls soul nerve training, which we all know is the vagus nerve. Everybody has a different word for it. But you're going to rub your belly. So sit comfortably in your seat, take both your hands and put them on your belly and just rub and breathe. Now, close your eyes if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, then just lower them so you're gazing down at the floor. And just feel what you feel while you rub your belly gently. Try to keep your arms soft while you do it. It's not a workout. It's just gentle rubbing. few more seconds here. Just give it all of your attention. And then slowly bring your hands to stop, rest them in your lap. And feel what you're feeling in your body. Notice what you might feel in your hands or in your belly. And notice your emotional state right now. Just make a note for yourself. Beautiful. Take a big deep breath. Exhale it out. And if your eyes are closed, you can open them back up. That's just one of the practices in his book. He has many, quite impressive array of what the practices for dealing with racialized trauma. Now, I have this quote that I love, and I'm gonna invite a volunteer to please read this. This comes from Ruth King. Her book is Mindful of Race, Transforming Racism from the Inside Out. She's a Buddhist monk, but I just appreciated this quote so much. There's some housekeeping things I do in all my training. So if you've seen me before, you've seen some of this, but it's because it's important. I need to set a framework for us. So can I get a volunteer to read this out loud? Just unmute yourself and go for it.
Okay, I read for you.
Thank you.
Okay. It is not our work to force someone's growth to our liking. It is the work of love to admire the beauty before you, to give people a sense of safety to unfold, to keep each other's company when drowning in agony until the waves can balance out and our feelings can once again live in us. Ruth King.
Thank you so much, Rita. It's Rita?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Now I want you all to drop into the chat. What words stuck out for you in that quote? Just put those notes into the chat. What words stand out for you? Safety to unfold, to force, balance. Not our work to force, safety. I love this group already. Beauty and safety, balance out, work of love. Anguish, you're right, the anguish. Thank you all so much. Keep putting those in there. I always reference this quote because if I'm doing my work right, if we're doing our work right as practitioners of mindfulness and creating spaces we're creating safe spaces for the students that are with us. We're creating safe spaces for the colleagues that are with us. I did not come here to convince you to believe what I believe. I came here to support you in opening up your mind so you can unfold, so you can take the next level of work that you choose to do. Everyone's at a different place. But this idea that our emotions, like the drowning in anguish, it can feel like that when we get deep into conversations. And I am going to push you a little bit into a conversation today that might feel uncomfortable. So I'm going to go to the next slide so you can understand why I mentioned this. Now, this comes from a book called Race Talk and the Conspiracy of Silence by Daryl Wing Sue. And he narrowed down some common emotions that people have when we begin to talk about race. Now, we're not going to read the list today, but I want you to just take a look at it. These are common emotions that people of color experience when we talk about race, common emotions that white people experience when we talk about race. And sometimes when I walk into a space, the words white supremacy culture and ideology come out of my mouth and everyone immediately gets uncomfortable. Trust me, we're here for it. That's why I came here today, to help you all cultivate some mindfulness around like how we do this, how we can be in these uncomfortable spaces, because it's happening in our schools, in case you haven't noticed, or maybe you have. So just know that emotions are natural. If you have emotions come up while we're moving through this process, please feel free to out it. Like, yes, it's okay if I'm feeling frustrated. It's okay if I'm feeling pessimistic. It's also okay if you laugh at my corny jokes, okay? So there's a range of emotions, but these are the common ones with race talk. What I've experienced in my 20 years of doing this is that when we get that emotion kick in, you all know what happens when the emotion kicks in. Shut down, back up, not talking anymore. Communication stops, it's over. We're going to out the emotions so that we can keep going, because we have to keep going to create mindful, inclusive spaces. Also, we need to know that we're having a feeling. We have a huge expectation that students have feelings and that they know, right? Well, tell me how you're feeling. How is that making you feel? And we expect them to know how to identify their emotion, but sometimes we can't even identify our own. It's important that we cultivate that practice for them. So be thinking about, as we're going through this, where can I incorporate this into my classroom, my workspace, or wherever it is that you are? Because it's practice. It's a little bit at a time. It's, oh, hey, here's a list of emotions. I'm not sure how I'm feeling right now, class. Let's look at it. Okay, maybe I think I'm feeling this. Modeling, right? Now we've gotten almost all of the, all of my housekeeping pieces out of the way. I want to invite you into what my circle agreements are that I cultivated with my two partners that I do this work with. I always have to reference them, Ji Hung Padme and Francis Kraft. And we cultivated this from some of the agreements that we found from the NEA. But these agreements keep this space safe for us, right? I'll move through them swiftly. But speaking your truth, I speak for myself. I don't speak for all women. I don't speak for all Black women. Please do not assign anything that I say to all of any group of people. No one gave me permission to speak for the group. So and when you speak, I don't expect you to speak for the group. Experience discomfort and connect with your feelings like we just discussed. Be mindful of privilege. This is an important part. When you're in a space, whose voice is getting all of the airtime? We need to be aware of that and do our work to bring that in. As well as, if you're like me, I'm the one who always talks too much in the group, and I always do my work to move back a little bit, like, okay, Gina, leave room for other people to talk. And then the last one that I'm going to say there out loud is remembering to breathe in that pausing pace, because sometimes when stuff gets hard, the only thing we can do is stop, is just, okay, everyone, we just need to breathe and stop. So I'm going to invite you to take a big, deep breath right now. And I want you to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. I want you to check in on your body, where you were after we rubbed our belly and where you are now after I just talked about all that race stuff. Because sometimes, something has shifted maybe, and note that. Just make a note for yourself. This isn't like, oh, I need you to tell me everything. I am going to want your voices in the space. But part of this is like really digging deep into our own internal work so that we can be better facilitators of this for students. If we know that we get uncomfortable and triggered every time somebody says the word white supremacy culture, and then your students bring that word up in class, and then you're triggered and you can't navigate the conversation, we have to be aware and prepared. So I'm giving you those tools. So did anyone, just by show of hands, anyone notice any difference in how you might feel between the belly rubbing and now? Thank you for show of hands. Thank you for not leaving me out here on my own. Thank you, because I feel different too. Don't think just because I've been doing this forever, I don't get some kind of kick up every time I do this process. I do, trust me. Okay, so now let's move into our work. Let's move into our work here. Because there's something, part of what I wanted to make sure I discussed with you all was the neuroscience behind in-group and out-group dynamics. Deep Diversity, the work by Shakil Chaudhry, talks about what it means to be the in-group and the out-group. And now when we're in spaces that I will tell you, as an English language learner teacher, I can sit in a classroom or with a group of EL teachers, and we can have an entire discussion about all of the things. And I'm totally comfortable because I know all of the content, all the concepts, I know all the acronyms, I know everything, and I'm comfortable. If I am sitting in a room full of math teachers and they start talking about things, I'm going to get a little more uncomfortable because that's not my in-group. I don't know all the language. I don't know what am I supposed to do? What are the words, right? What happens with in-group and out-groups neuroscience is automatically our body starts to respond. Immediately, if I am in a space where I'm not as familiar, and I also want to point out, or maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only Black woman in the group, and there's an entire group of white people. My biochemistry is going to kick in, and I'm going to feel a little off. and being aware of that so that we can make sure that folks know, oh, if you're feeling a little off, that's understandable. You're not going to point someone out and be like, oh, I recognize, Gina, that you're the only Black woman here, and that might be uncomfortable for you. Or I recognize that you're the only LGBTQ plus person here to a person. And that, no, we don't do that. That's harmful. We're not here to harm. But we want to be aware of what people might be experiencing. And belonging is a key driver in conscious and unconscious behavior. Remember that. So if we're always talking about implicit bias, like everybody talks about it, well, we need to be aware of implicit bias, need to be aware of implicit bias. Yes, of course we do, but we're not. Because if we were aware, it would not be called implicit. It would not be called unconscious. We are going to say and do things, which I will give you some examples of things I've said and done that definitely were microaggressions. We're going to say and do things that we don't know, because sometimes we're stepping into the rules of the game. We didn't make the rules. We don't know the rules. We just don't. And because that's not our in-group. I know my EL teacher in-group rules of the game. I don't know the math teacher in-group rules of the game. I give you that as a concrete example, but I want you to think about the spaces that you've been in, where either you've been the only one or you've been like, oh, this feels very uncomfortable. Well, it's uncomfortable because maybe that's not your in-group and you're not accustomed to being in those spaces. But mindfulness practices, becoming aware, oh, my heart rate just sped up when I walked into this room because I'm the only female-bodied person here. Okay, now what do I need to do with that? Maybe I need to breathe a little bit more. And then being aware that our students are having a similar experience. Someone said that going to middle school every day is like going to your class reunion, your 10 and 20 year class reunion every day. I just had to laugh. I was like, that's kind of what it felt like in middle school. It's very true. So being aware of what's happening, that I don't have control of when I walk into a space. Students don't have control when they walk into a space and realize either they're the only one or they're talking about something that's maybe they're not interested in or they're not connected to. That I don't have control that my body is going to automatically begin to do what it does, but I do have that next step, right? I do have the ability to be aware, breathe. Now, I just liked these because I thought they were funny, because what the diversity statement looks like and what the practices are in person. Like, really? Have anyone experienced this where you work anywhere? Because it's like, we've got a lot of really, I'm in Oak Park, everyone, and I sit on the school board for D200. So we have a very rich racial equity policy. And then the practices, we are doing everything we can for those practices to match the policy. But sometimes it might look like that in the process. And then this other one here, right? We solved it, right? We showed them some mindful tools, and now everybody's, happy and peaceful and at ease. Let us not deceive ourselves, friends. Let us not deceive ourselves. We are still in a pandemic. There is a lot still going on. The emotional toll after this is still going to be great for a number of years. So we're not solving this in an instant or in a fraction. And if it looks messy and ugly sometimes, it's okay. It's part of the process. And we just need to stick with it. But let us not turn into those penguins, right? We haven't solved it. It's ongoing. So the sense of belonging matters. It matters, and it matters what we do to make people belong in our space. I already did two things to hopefully help you feel like you belong here. One, invited you in to tell me about your pronouns, about where you're located right now, and to actually welcome your voice into the space. Where it says values affirmation interventions, that just means I am concerned and care about who you are as a person and how you show up in the world and what's important to you. And I let you know that you have value in my space. But knowing is only the beginning. Knowing is just the beginning. I'm about to show you a really crazy slide. It's got a lot of information, okay? But what I want you to think about with the people that you encounter on a daily basis, with the folks that are in your spaces, this is the iceberg concept of culture. I'm going to give you a second to review this slide and look at all of these different things. When we think about culture, when we think about the culture and climate of a space, or when we think about the culture of a people, we're thinking these surface things. In the classroom, are they all listening while I'm speaking? Are they moving in transitions well? Are they, right? These are surface things. These are those like easy to see. I walk in, administrator walks in the classroom and they can see that, oh, well, look how well behaved this class is. I don't know if that necessarily means that people feel like they belong there. That just means that they're quiet at that moment. But if we want to go deeper, right? If we want to go deeper, we begin to understand where the roles of all of the isms of the world, right? Sexism, racism, like when I have conversations around this, I tend to focus on race first because, they say if you have to swallow 10 frogs, swallow the big one first. Race is the big one. Race is the big one. Then the other frogs are a little bit easier to swallow, but it's never easy to swallow frogs. So we want to start thinking also about, oh, what about my LGBTQ plus students in my space? How uncomfortable are they? What kind of cultural things might be going on for them that I'm not thinking about, right? We need to dig deeper. We need to go deeper into our practice of recognition. And so practice gets it done. Practice absolutely gets it done. So what I want you to do right now is I'm going to give you another little write time. I want you to take 2 minutes. Wait, I see something in the chat. Kitra, would you please say more about that? I really like that. We need to understand the difference between fitting in and belonging.
So I think sometimes people confuse the fact of fitting in and belonging. It's like I fit in, it's because, oh, sorry, my daughter was, sorry, it's my daughter. When we fit in, it's like, I'm here, I look like you, I act like you, I dress like you, even though I may not be like you, but belonging is you gave me a seat at the, oh, sorry, she keeps calling.
It's okay, it's okay.
That's the adult daughter. But that belonging is I'm here. Oh, God, sorry.
Must be important, Kitra.
I have a seat at the table. You're listening to me. You're valuing my ideas. And that's the difference. And I think sometimes when we're in the classroom with kids, we're like, oh, our kids, they're getting along, they're happy. But it's like those kids who may be part of the LGBTQ plus community or colors, do they have a seat at the table? Are their ideas and values represented, or are we just doing a tourist approach to how we bring them inside?
Absolutely, Kitra. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And all of, there's the wisdom is in the collective, friends. Just because I'm facilitating this process doesn't mean that the group here doesn't have a ton of stuff to contribute. So at any point, toss something in the chat, raise your hand, unmute, jump in, interrupt me. I am definitely that professor that likes to be interrupted. So feel free to toss in where you've got your wisdom points, because we all do. And I appreciate that. What you said, Kitra, leads us right into the activity that I want you to do. And I was thinking maybe to put you into breakout rooms of twos, because what I would love for you to talk about right now is what are your current practices for ensuring that students know that they're valuable and important, because that's what Kitra just said, right? And you led right into my next question perfectly. What practices are you actually doing to let students know that they're valuable and important? That you recognize their culture and their identity, that you honor them, that their voice is important, right? I'm going to break you into breakout rooms. I will drop the question in the chat. Hold on 1 second. Welcome back, friends. It wasn't enough time, was it? Okay, yeah, Tracy and I were just saying, yeah, it's not enough time. It doesn't matter how much, it really doesn't matter. If we did the 3-hour session of this, it's still never enough time. So yeah, I understand. You were just digging in. Don't worry, you're going to get to dig in some more. So I want to hear from two people, two folks willing to share some ways that you do. Just unmute.
I teach a creative writing class, mindful writing, and that's based on poetry. And at each lesson, the students write their own version of the poem. So it gives them an opportunity to, express their creativity, what's deep in their hearts. And yeah, one thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Laura. One more.
And let me add in, Laura wrote a chapter for our book if you want to learn more about bringing poetry into your.
Nice.
Hello. I can go. My name is Kari Bay. I teach a mindfulness health class in Delaware, and and also comedic yoga. So I kind of get my I have, there's a lot of pictures on the walls, and the pictures match the population of students, all races, size, genders, because I think a lot of the students in the BIPOC community don't see themselves in these practices. So it's kind of an anomaly, even as an African American male, to be into yoga and mindfulness. So it also breaks down that stereotype for them to see that there is representation. And I think that's really something important. And also, we try to, we're in the process in the district of bringing in more BIPOC community teachers, and so that they kind of match our population. And, you know, across the nation, that's not really what you see, especially when it comes to Black and Latinx males or Asian males also, that they're just not a large representation for them. So I think that's one of the biggest pushes that we've done in the last couple of years. And I have been part of many committees that are in the process of, handling that issue and that need.
Thank you so much, Kyrie. Like, representation matters, and seeing, right? Seeing yourself in it, right? And I just want to ask you all, I want to leave you with this question in this activity. Have you asked your students what makes them feel like you value them, right? Like, that's an important piece. If you haven't asked them, right, we sometimes forget. Like, you could even ask the little ones, like, how do you know that I think you're important? Like, kindergartners can articulate that. I have seen them do it. Right. So let us not always let us not underestimate the need to get input from student voice. Student voice is like, it's my platform, y'all. I stand on the student voice platform. So like, always check with them. Nice work, friends. Nice work. So I know you didn't have a lot of time to share, but I want to get everything in. I'm giving you snippets here. So you've seen this before, right? Belonging is an outcome. Like, it's not something that happens automatically. It's an outcome because we did something that made that happen. Now, these are the 6 conditions for belief change. And the reason why this is important is because if I have a belief that I don't belong in your class, or if I have a belief that mindfulness is not for me, or if I have a belief that I just, whatever my belief might be, you got to put some things in place in order for those conditions to change. And the first one is that we feel safe enough. In order for me to think that I can change and try something new and be adventurous, I got to feel safe. I need to understand how the belief was created. Like, where did this come from? Why do I hold this idea? Why is it, what about this idea? That, to me, that also sounds like teach accurate history. We encounter new information, right? I love, like Kyrie said, am I pronouncing your name right? I hope so.
Yes.
Okay, great. We encounter new information, right? If I've never seen a person that looks like me doing something, I need to see some new information that they do. That needs to be modeled for me. I need to have that somewhere. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my screen. Alternative beliefs exist. Our core identity is present. We see benefits to challenge the belief, right? So thinking about like, oh, if my students are holding this idea, what am I doing to get at this core? The reason why I put this list on here for you all is really because the first one, that they feel safe enough, that they just feel safe enough. And mindfulness, as we know, supports safety. I want you to think about your classrooms and your spaces right now. Who needs to feel safe in your space? Have you thought about that? Who doesn't feel safe? Who might not feel safe that you haven't considered? And what practices can you incorporate for safety? Do you need to create agreements with the class? Maybe that's something that you need to do. Maybe creating agreements of how you all will keep each other safe in the classroom might be something that would make people feel safe. And how often do you need to do or reinforce those practices? Now, when I was in the classroom, we did mindfulness throughout my 90-minute block with the students, right? We would do something at the beginning, we would stop and do something after each activity. I would have them either write or breathe, or there was always, how often was I doing that? And asking them for their input about what does it feel like to be in this space? What does it feel like? Do you feel safe? Do you feel valued? Do you feel appreciated? Because those are the pieces that will get us to that next level of our work. Now, here's the challenge. I hope you're ready to be uncomfortable, friends. We've got about 15 more minutes, so I just wanted to wait to give you the zingers at the end. So there's some instances that happen in our schools. They happen frequently and they're not comfortable. And I want us to talk about how do we respond when they happen. The first one, we might hear from our colleagues. I can't teach these kids. It's not my fault they're behind. I have a thing about the terms these and those, these kids, those kids. When those words make their way into someone's vocabulary, we need to have a conversation. You need to have a conversation. But for yourself right now, how do you respond when you hear that from someone? And I'm going to give you one of my tools that I always use for this. First, I have to take a deep breath. I can't front, okay? I have to breathe first. When I hear, these parents, those parents, they don't care about their kids. What, right? Why would you say that? That's so, right? I can't do that to people, because when you do that to people, then their system shuts down and then they don't want to talk anymore. Usually I say, tell me where that belief comes from. Or can you tell me more about that idea? And tell me exactly, what do you mean by these kids? Can you break down these kids? I'm not clear. Like questioning to get people to talk about where their belief came from. Like, what's up, these kids? Anybody have anything to add? Please throw it in the chat or unmute yourself. But I'm just giving you some examples that I want you to be thinking about. That's so gay.
Hey,
The kids
Tina,
say
I'm
this.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Kitra.
I was gonna say, like, these kids, and this is not just something that happens with like non-teachers of color. I've heard teachers of color say these about these kids. So it goes to a line of like education on a socioeconomic status sometimes, especially if you're in a low SES neighborhood. It's like, I hear that from teachers all the time. It's like, what do you mean these parents don't care, or these kids, it's not my fault?
Yeah, it's not my fault. They don't care. And the parents don't care is such a myth that it's like every school I've been to, like I taught in Maywood, and our parents were at every event. Our parent teacher conferences were filled. Where's this idea coming from? Like, question your assumption, people, question your assumption. And you're right, Kitra. BIPOC folks, we do this too. Like that happens. So we need to this is for all of us. I just want us to know this is for all of us. We all need to be mindful of our language and the words that are coming out of our mouth and the words that are coming out of the mouths of the people around us, right? I'm empowering you to become those people. And this phrase right here, that's so gay. I mean, really? How do you respond when your students say that to each other? Right? Excuse me? Like here's what some people do. Like, oh, I pretend like you didn't hear it. You can't do that. Can't do that. Not Maria. When students say that's okay, I say, I didn't know you had a sexual preference. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Add a little like, right? To avoid it, to not address it is problematic. When kids say that, we have to address it. Like, that's not appropriate. Even if that's the only thing that you say is, I'm not sure that's appropriate. Tell me why you chose those words. I love questions. I love to ask people questions about why that certain things come out of their mouth, because yes, thank you. What does gay mean, right? That makes you happy, change the meaning, right? I like that. And we just need to not let it slide, not let it slide. But asking people questions about like, so what did you mean by that? Where does that come from? What, right? She's so articulate. Oh, she's so articulate. Do you know how many times people have told me I'm articulate? Oh my goodness. I know they mean it as a compliment, but that is like one of the largest microaggressions ever. Is there an assumption that I would not be articulate because I'm a Black woman? Really? Is that what this is about? Do you have an assumption about students? Is that, of course, you see all my attitude come out there? That's not what I do with people when I'm in the space with them. I'm like, oh, so can you break down why you would think that I would be articulate? I've never heard you say that about Tom. I've never heard you express that Tom was articulate. Can you express to me what made you think to say that about me being articulate? I understand you mean it as a compliment, like just questions, just asking people. Here's my next example. Who's your partner for science? I can't remember her name, the Asian student. And then student one says, that's racist. Okay, friends, let's talk about this one. I'm gonna stop sharing so I can hear from you, because we have a couple minutes here. I wanna hear from you, because this is a very common thing. I find it in first, second, and third grade. Like, well, no, he was the Black student. You can't say that, that's racist. Well, no, they're just telling the characteristics of the student. right? Anyone address this, see this, right? Can we talk about it? Comments? I'm opening up the mic. Take the mic, someone, anyone. And if you're feeling any of those uncomfortable emotions right now, just take a deep breath. It's okay. And I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, so don't worry. Okay.
I guess.
I know for me, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say something along the lines of asking a question. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, like what makes that a racist statement, right?
Right.
Tell me, yeah. What were you going to say? And tell me how to pronounce your name. Is it Clotilde?
It's Clotilde, yes, and I go by Chloe. So either one, Clotilde or Chloe. Because I work all the way TK through 5, but it also comes up to my little TKers. And again, because we have a sense of belonging and a name is such a strong identity. So I even go to the first part, like, oh, okay, that's a good identity, but let's find out, just like how you have a name, let's find out what his or her name is, because it's so important. Come on, let's go introduce ourselves. And so that's the way we start the conversation.
Yes, beautiful. Because then it breaks down without having to make this, like making it a bigger deal than it is, right? We're still honoring identity. Like, yes, that person is Asian and they have a name, right? There's more to that person than just what their appearance is. Thank you for that. Thank you. And thank you for participating, friends, because it's nice. I like my voice, but I prefer yours. The next one, speak English. This is America. I can't see all your faces when I have the screen. So it's like, I'm just wanting to see your reactions. My favorite comeback for this one is, you do realize that the United States is the only country that is monolingual, and that the brain development of students who speak multiple languages is way more advanced. Like it's, multiple languages. I mean, I was an English language learner teacher, so that was a piece for me. But these are things that we hear, right? I think that, like, show of hands, are we hearing these things? Like, these are things that we're hearing, right? Yes, the vabbing. Thank you, Lindsay Frank. Yes. Dr. Shiroki Holly, his great work is with the vabbing. Do you want to say more about that, Lindsay?
Yeah, I was thinking we're validating, affirming, building, and bridging. So it's almost as if we're meeting students where they are and the different contexts and where they are, and then we're going to build and bridge. And it's a skill set, right? So we're always building and bridging to the next layer of the different contexts that we're in, so that we can create that inclusivity and that belonging.
Yeah. And thank you, Maria. You had to take a deep, and thank you for that, Lindsay. If you're not familiar with Dr. Shiroki Holly's work, culturally and linguistically inclusive, responsive teaching, such good work, highly recommend it. And that last one there, right? What do you want on your head? Like, pre-Kers might ask that in such an innocent way, but middle schoolers might be taken totally different, right? These are all instances that are going to come up, and we have to be prepared to address them. Now, there's another instance, and I'm mindful that I've got 9 minutes, but when people feel like you're attacking them, right, that they're either being called a racist, or there's a perception of being called a racist, or an ist of anything, right? Like if you're being a sexist or like any of those things, but the response feels like it's like triggers our limbic system. When someone feels or perceives that they're being called a racist, they actually have a body physical reaction that feels like trauma for them, because it's just a huge affront to their being. If you know that, then how we approach people becomes different, right? And this work comes from Coaching for Equity by Elena Aguilar. They are honoring their ancestors. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. They are honoring their ancestors. But we need to know that folks have that, right? Their response is going to be like, oh man, it's almost like somebody hit them, right? It feels like an attack. I'm not saying that means like we just make space for white tears all the time. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, like, just recognize that that's what happened to that person when they heard that, when you worked to, have that conversation with them, and then move into some different ways of being. So there are some somatic responses that Resmaa Menakem talks about. And I want you to think about our time together today. And there's just this short hour. Were there moments of wanting to disengage or retreat, right? To be like, oh, don't want to talk about that part. Like, can we skip that part? I can't see your faces, but I'm assuming there's some nodding going on. And then take the time to practice observing your reflexive thoughts that arise, right? If all of a sudden somebody says something and then your body constricts, we need to be aware that our body just constricted with tension and those feelings and need to be able to breathe into it. And we need to teach this explicitly to students. It can't be, and you know, we don't do the fire drill when there's a fire. We do it when there's no fire, right? So that they know what to do when there is a fire. So this is the same type of practice. We want to teach students and ourselves the skills when we're calm, not when we're triggered, right? We want to be thinking about, wow, what if somebody does say that I said something that was a microaggression? How am I going to react to that? And then be practicing, well, just thinking about it made my tummy get tight. So maybe I'll need to breathe. So noticing those feelings, thinking about them, being aware of them, because they are definitely happening. And notice moments of constrictions when thoughts arise towards defensiveness. Now, there's a piece I didn't go through with you all because we only had an hour, but there are 9 characteristics of white supremacy culture and ideology. It comes from the work of Tema Okun, and it's like a combination of work compiled from others as well. And it has what the white supremacy culture ideologies are, then it has the antidotes to those, right? So how do we show up, and how, like, defensiveness is the number one, like it's way up there on the list of a white supremacy culture ideology. And let's be clear, when I say white supremacy culture, what I'm talking about is the idea that white bodies are better and are higher ranked, right? It's the idea. I'm not saying anything about nationalists. That's not what I'm talking about. So, but recognizing that defensiveness, right? That's the number one piece that comes up. If you normalize that defensiveness is going to come up in the space, then when it starts to show its head, which it will. Have you looked at data lately? Anyone look at data with your teams? When you look at data, defensiveness comes up, well, you know, that's just because these kids da-da-da-da-da. Well, this happened because of da-da-da-da-da. Well, excuse me, I'm feeling a little bit of defensiveness. That sounds like defensiveness. Like, how are we going to work to unpack that so that we can actually look at what's underlying what this data is saying? Normalizing that it's okay we know you're going to get defensive. All of us are. And that's not right. Like Kitra was saying, this is for all of us. We're all going to get defensive. But recognizing that when that happens, we normalize it in the space. And now, my favorite quote, and this is like by far, if you're not familiar with the Abolitionist Teaching Network or Dr. Bettina Love, that I highly recommend it. And don't worry, it's on the list of books. But I would love for someone to read this quote for us. Just unmute yourselves.
Too often, we think the work of fighting oppression is just intellectual. The real work is personal, emotional, spiritual, and communal. It is explicit with the deep and intense understanding that loving Blackness is an act of political resistance, and therefore, it is the fundamental aspect to teaching dark kids. Dr. Bettina Love.
Thank you. Michelise, am I saying that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Emphasis, I put the emphasis on those words because the real work is emotional, spiritual, and communal, and it's explicit. We cannot be in our spaces not explicitly teaching people how they have to honor each other. We have to be explicit with the language. We have to be explicit with our behavior. We have to be explicit with, whoa, I just heard something that was challenging. Can we stop and take a breath together? We might need to process this a little bit differently, right? We need to be explicit, and we also need to be vulnerable our own selves. We don't have all the answers, but I can guarantee you that the group does. The collective always has the wisdom. So making sure that we know that it's personal, emotional, spiritual, and communal takes us right back to the beginning, which was, hey, we have some mindfulness work to do. We definitely do. And I'm going to leave you with what we started, right? My hopes for you were that there was some discomfort. Did I accomplish that? Hopefully. That you talked about how you would practice mindfulness of the isms and support students in doing so. And that you walk away with what your practice for inclusion is going to be, that you're going to try. That you have something that I've said to you today that you are like, I'm going to try that. I'm going to give that a try in my classroom. And that is what I have for you. With 1 minute left. So thank you all so very much for your time today. It's been so wonderful to be here.
Thank you, Gina.
And I'm going to drop that list in the chat of make it available so that you have all those resources that I referenced. And also, if you wanted to connect with me, you can find me very easily on social media, because I love social media, at Gina G. Harris 7.